Memorials and events will take place over the next several days to honor the 41st president. His final resting place will be at the Bush Presidential Library in Texas on Thursday. CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is with us now at Joint Base Andrews, where the former president will be brought today. So, Ed, what do we know about what the funeral and the days leading up to the funeral will be like?
Hi, Anne-Marie. Yeah, it all begins this morning in the Houston area. He'll fly out of a Air Force base there with his sons Neil and George W. aboard and their families. The jet that's bringing them here is one that most would know as Air Force One, but for these flights will be known as Special Air Mission 41. Will arrive here in the 3 o'clock hour at Joint Base Andrews outside Washington, and he'll be taken by motorcade to the U.S. Capitol, where there will be a service led by Vice President Pence and congressional leaders. He will lie in state until Wednesday morning. The public is welcome to come see him even through the overnight hours. On Wednesday, that funeral will occur at the National Cathedral. Among those expected to attend, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. Then he's brought back here to Joint Base Andrews and flown back to Houston, where he will lie for a public viewing at St. Martin's Episcopal Church, where he worshiped with his wife Barbara. On Thursday, after a funeral, he is taken by train, a special train built by Union Pacific and painted in the colors of those Air Force One jets. He'll be buried at College Station, Texas A&M, the Bush Presidential Library, a private family plot there where Barbara Bush was buried earlier this year, and their daughter Robin, who died of leukemia at the age 3, is also laid to rest.
And so we have learned now that the president, the current president, and the first lady will be attending the funeral. Do we know whether or not President Trump will be playing any role in the funeral?
We don't. And you know, protocol and past history would dictate that the current president would eulogize the former president. We'll see if that happens in this instance. We haven't received final details of the funeral just yet. It's still about 2 days away, and often those things do require a little planning. The only bit of news we know out of that comes by way of the Canadian press that says that the former Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney is among those that will be eulogizing President Bush. The two of them served and led their countries at the same time in the early 1990s and remained close afterward. But besides that, we don't know. But the fact that the current president plans to attend at all is notable because he has skipped some other events this year that included his predecessors. And so we may now see for the first time at this event on Wednesday, President Trump come face to face with Barack Obama, with George W. Bush, with Bill Clinton, and if he comes, Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, indeed, he was not at Barbara Bush's funeral, which was just in April. You know, the president decided not to have a press conference about the G20 summit because of the passing of President Bush. Is there a possibility that the death of President Bush and the funeral leading up to it may have an impact on this looming government shutdown?
It might, actually, Anne-Marie. We learned over the weekend that congressional negotiators in the White House are working on a plan to essentially move back the spending deadline that currently is midnight Friday, in part out of deference to the former president and the various ceremonies that will play out in Washington this week. The nation's capital, Congress, the White House are essentially going to be consumed by all of that for at least the first 3 days of the week, which wouldn't leave much time for final votes to be held in part to keep the rest of the federal government open after midnight on Friday. A reminder, what this is a partial threat of a partial government shutdown to mostly the security agencies, including Homeland Security, as the president seeks up to $5 billion in border wall funding. Negotiators on Capitol Hill currently have a deal for about $1.6 billion in border security funding. The president doesn't like that, and so there was the possibility that this week there'd be a bit of a stare down leading to Friday. Now it may be extended until at least next Friday the 14th, but over the weekend, flying home from Argentina, the president suggested he's up for a 2-week delay. Not necessarily what lawmakers want, though, because they'd like to be able to leave for Christmas. So perhaps some silver lining in the unfortunate death of the former president is that it is going to potentially buy more time for the White House and Congress to sort out a bit of a spending mess.
Yes, it certainly is that. Ed, thank you so much.